This is somewhat of a difficult video to make. Um, First and foremost, because the only updates are bad updates. But secondly, every time I go through this, the overwhelming incompetence of everyone involved just staggers me. It absolutely staggers me. If I had shown half of the level of incompetence at my job that any number of these politicians have shown repeatedly, I would have got the sack. And it would have been right that I got the sack. So when it comes to the progression of Brexit, of the 1,012 things that we needed to get done in 3 years, which realistically was not a long time to get this stuff done, what actually has been done? Of the 176 trade deals that we are losing, if we don't have a deal with the EU, we've managed to secure about 4. And they are no better. They are just copies of the deals that we already have. And quite frankly, these countries have been doing us massive favours to secure that because they really don't have to. Now, in defence of Brexit, friends often bring up to me, oh, well, everyone's going to want to do business with us. Of course they are. Everyone loves us. Everyone wants us to buy from them. Yeah, everyone does want us to buy from them. But again, where does our money come from? We have to find someone to sell to. And I hate to break this to all you Brexiteers, but America does not want to buy our crap. They don't. They want to sell. That's it. Now, American politics gets it gets convoluted and it gets slightly difficult, especially with heritage. Turns out a lot of American politicians have Irish heritage, and they are really taking offence to how our Brexit politicians have just shat on Ireland and the Irish border for the last 3 years. That's not actually a good thing. And Nancy Pelosi, a woman I have nothing but disgust for, well, she's made it very clear she's not going to allow a deal to go forward unless the Good Friday Agreement is upheld and the Irish border is resolved. Cast your minds back. When this all began, when Theresa May triggered Article 50, and this whole process began, the number one thing that the EU said was, look, everything is up for negotiation, absolutely everything, but you have to resolve the Irish border. That has to be the priority. Everything else, fine, we can talk about, but you need to sort this out. And of course, politicians like Boris Johnson, our very likely next MP, Jacob Rees-Mogg, a massive cheerleader for Brexit, well, because he's going to get away with not paying any tax. Nigel Farage, Liam Fox, David Davis, and all these other absolute wanks of human beings all said it was not an issue, but they couldn't actually think of anything that would help this. Not a single bloody one of them came up with anything. The closest they got was inventing technology that doesn't actually exist to fix a problem that can't be fixed with the technology that doesn't actually exist. Yes, we have technology that will read number plates, but we don't have technology that will see what's inside a bloody lorry without someone actually being there. It doesn't exist. There's a reason why it's not being used anywhere on the bloody planet. It's not there. But this is what Brexiteer politicians and the Vote Leave campaign have done. They've given unicorns. They've given fairy tales and fables. They've lied about the WTO, while the former head of WTO came out repeatedly saying what Jacob Rees-Mogg is saying is wrong. That's not how World Trade Organization rules work. The current head of WTO has had to come out and say what Jacob and Boris are saying is absolute wrong. Why are you listening to these liars? But of course, Brexiteer politicians and people have fallen for the Brexit line don't listen to that. They don't listen to the experts. They are ignoring the warnings that the NHS is putting out. The NHS, which they are stockpiling drugs, which is great. Not all drugs. Not all drugs. There are still going to be a ton of people who are going to suffer and lose their lives because of this, but some drugs are being stockpiled in the EU. Yeah. We are going to have shortages because we're leaving the EU and they won't be able to clear in time, and they won't be able to be imported in time because we're leaving the EU. Yet someone thought it was a good idea to have our stockpiles not in the UK but in the EU, either in Berlin, I want to say Berlin or Belgium. I think it's Berlin. And whenever I bring up the massive failings and the moronic, unbelievable incompetence of Brexit, I am normally met with the same thing over and over again. Well, the government is full of Remainers. That's why it's all going wrong. It's full of Remainers. Charlie Elphrick, the MP for Dover and Deal, my MP, the absolute scumbag of humanity, is a Leave campaigner. He absolutely wants us out, and he wants us out with no deal. Dover is not ready for a no-deal Brexit, and we've done absolutely nothing. We have no new custom agents, we have no new docking stations put up, we have no new custom ports put up. We have absolutely nothing. 10,000 lorries come and go every single day in Dover, and that is only possible because we have frictionless trade. That will go because we've left the EU with no deal, so we have to stop and check every single lorry. Dover Port's not big enough for that. It will lead to Dover coming to a standstill. This is something Charlie Elphrick could have been working to resolve. He's done nothing. Liam Fox, hardline Brexiteer, said Brexit will be the easiest thing ever. Easiest thing ever to set up trade deals. Easiest thing ever. Of the 176 trade deals that we have with the EU, we have 4 in replacement. Four. Matt Hancock, massive Brexiteer, also the head of the NHS. And as I previously said, this unbelievable dim-witted prick thinks that the best place to stockpile life-saving drugs, necessary drugs for the UK, so that people don't lose their lives, so that lives aren't destroyed by this, given how difficult it's going to be getting him from the EU into Britain. Essentially, it came down to him, as he is the head of the NHS, and yet he decided to put the stockpile in the EU. And that's before we get into the countless insults that various politicians have given to the EU. Now, I get if you don't like the EU. I do. I understand that completely. I'm not a big fan. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not a fanboy of the EU. I just realise we're much better in it than out of it. But you can't call someone... It's a lot easier saying this between friends, because I'm not entirely sure if my video got flagged for using these words. But you can't constantly call someone a see you next Tuesday and have them turn around and do you favours. And that's exactly what Jacob Rees-Mogg has been doing to Macron for 3 years now. Which is why the EU is eventually going to turn around and say, no, you had time, you had extensions. You couldn't get this done. Goodbye. Because again, what the Brexiteer politicians and what Brexiteer people who've fallen for that Brexit line, what they don't seem to realise is that, yeah, the EU is going to take a hit. But from day one, the EU have been getting ready for a no-deal Brexit. My God, we can't even put the fucking people who have 2 brain cells to do a goddamn job. And now we're most likely going to have Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. The only politician I can think of who not only lost his job in politics because he lied so much, but also lost a job in journalism because he lied so much. A pathological moron as the Prime Minister who will give absolutely everything to Donald Trump. That's what we're left with. And that's probably where my migraines come from. I don't want to see this go badly. I live in the UK. But it's not Boris who's going to suffer. It's not Jacob Rees-Mogg. It's not Nigel Farage and his disgusting Brexit party who seem to be littered with paedophile apologists and Cambridge Analytica staff. None of them will suffer. But people who actually have to work for a living will. People who live in Dover will suffer. People who need medication to get through the day will suffer. The NHS will go. Food standards will drop, and that will lead to a whole host of other problems that Brexiteers don't like to acknowledge. Brexit was a mistake. And unfortunately, far too many people got caught up in the lies.